Will, it's like a family reunion having you
It
back on.
is. Holy cow. It has been, it's got to be like a month.
Look how much I've aged since
Look at
you've been gone.
yeah, but you just look better. The rest of the world gets older. You just get more distinguished.
That's the word I was hoping you'd use. Guys and gals, while we're waiting for folks to jump on, don't forget to check out the American Warrior Society and pick up your challenge coin.
Yeah, right there, buddy.
Got everything to keep you and your family safer? Or you may want to do yourself and your family a favor and pick up a copy of On Violence and Varietals today.
You know, just looking at the cover of that, I felt my testosterone level go up significantly.
Didn't you? Look at that.
I did. Oh, even more. Oh boy.
Yeah, man. What's going on with aviation lately? I know that.
I just been working my tail off. It started with vacation, which was awesome, and did that for 10 days. That was a good thing. And then it just went back and forth, busy, working a little overtime, had a schedule change, and taking care of some other stuff. And it's just been a little crazy.
Well, everybody's missed you, Will.
Well, I've missed doing the show and missed interacting with all of our regulars on here. And in fact, I got a message from Alan Kelly saying he was sorry he's going to have to miss the show tonight. And I told him that's okay. Next time he's on, he can just ask twice as many intelligent questions.
There we go. When are you coming back for good, Monday?
It will be, let me get my calendar up here. It will start Monday, May 6th.
Monday, May 6th. Where?
And then I'm good.
My calendar's not popping up. There it is. Monday, May the 6th. Okay.
Yep.
I will be teaching a class that week with Mr. Seeklander. So you hopefully TC will join in with you.
Yeah, that'd be awesome if you did. Speaking of that, Dr. Fuller is in the house.
Dr. Fuller in the house. It says reading bedtime stories back soon.
Well, hopefully there's no big words there for him.
Yeah.
So
well, give the kids a hug.
Absolutely. Take care of first things first.
Amen. They're only little once.
That's right. And it goes quick.
So lots of stuff been going on with the economy lately. Yes. I know my portfolio has taken a significant hit.
Yep. A lot of stuff went down, and kind of interesting. Meta reported earnings. Tesla reported after the close yesterday, and then went up 12% today, I think, right in that neighborhood. And it was funny because it was their third quarter in a row of missing the earnings. But then they talked about we're going to do robo-taxis and build cheaper cars. So, and it went up, and I was like, hold on, you're talking about building cheaper cars. That's going to be a lower profit margin, and the stock goes up. Huh? And then Meta reported after hours. I'm not sure what they reported, but last I saw they were down 14%.
Good. Even though we are coming to you live from a Meta product, I have one of my fingers I would like to present to Meta and your entire weird universe there, Mr. Zuckerberg.
Yes, for sure.
Kick me off anytime you like. Again.
Yeah. Been there, done that. Got the T-shirt. So
yeah.
All right, so you're ready to dive in here?
Fear is driving the market, huh?
What's that?
Fear is driving the market, huh?
It is, yes. And this is actually up. It was last week. It was down around like 31, 32. So as you can see there from our timeline chart on the bottom, it's bounced up a little bit. Honestly, I don't expect it to last. We're going through a lot of earnings right now, and people get optimistic. During the earnings calls, even if they miss on their earnings, there's always a lot of happy speak. And somebody's always happy to fall for the happy speak. So, we did see NVIDIA take a big hit. They were down last Friday. They were down 10% on the day. So it would have been good to be short NVIDIA that day.
Yeah.
So I don't think this fear is going away because, remember, it wasn't but, 3 months ago. We're both old enough to remember that time. They were talking about 7 quarter-point rate cuts from the Federal Reserve this year. And now, when I say the market was forecasting, I should say. The market was forecasting 7 quarter-point rate cuts this year. In an election year, while inflation is gyrating around, in the last 3 months actually gone up on each monthly CPI report, the bond market was still saying there'd be 7 rate cuts. Now they're down to, the forecast is 1.6 rate cuts. And they aren't going to come until towards the end of the year because Powell doesn't want to be seen as influencing the election. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this shakes out. It's going to change a lot of things. The housing market's hurting. Mortgage rates are staying up. The only thing I think holding the housing market up right now is just the lack of supply of single family homes.
Yeah.
But there is a flood of multifamily housing coming on the market, which is going to drive prices down because people are just going to say, whatever, I'll rent.
Right.
So
you ain't wrong with that.
So we'll see what happens here. This is the Buffett indicator. So the way old Warren came up with his indicator here is he takes the Wilshire 5000, which is basically the entire stock market, and he divides the GDP divided by the Wilshire 5000, and he comes up with a ratio. Okay. And then that ratio, which is currently sitting at 189% market value to GDP, and currently is at 1.7 standard deviations above the trend. Now you'll see on March 31st, it was 2 standard deviations exactly above the trend. And they say 2 standard deviations there that we circled is strongly overvalued. So, and you can look back. I mean, look at 2020. I mean, there's times it dips below overvalued, but not for long. But boy, those are some times of pain. And we can remember the stock market in 2022, how bad that was. It was down 30% on the year, and it barely dipped below overvalued.
Now, is the trend still your friend?
My opinion, not financial advice. The trend is your friend if you're short the market right now.
There you go.
Yep. So the trend can always be your friend because even if you can't short the market or you're not comfortable shorting the market, there's always those money markets paying 5% right now, guaranteed money. And something tells me that you and Mr. Razmik are pretty happy right about now after the last.
Oh, gold is killing it.
Yes, it is. Up. It was what 1,600 last November, October, somewhere in there.
And now I saw a day or so ago, it was 23 something.
Yeah, I think it's dipped back down a little bit. In fact, we got a chart coming up on gold just for you. Yep. So I think it's got a ways to come down now. I think it ran a little too far, a little too fast for as gold goes. So I think it's due for a pullback here, but I do think it's not financial advice again, but I do think it's a buying opportunity for the old.
100%.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see where that shakes out. You want to read to us here about the inverted yield curve, brother?
I would love to. Thank you to the 6 folks watching us live. Please like and hit that share button. We got Nova is on, Dr. Fuller, TJ is on, Will Rhodes is on, Bruce is on, and Donald Green says, sorry, I can't tune in. I'm sitting on the beach with my bride and a fine cigar in San Augustine, Florida. I am jealous. I absolutely love San Augustine, Florida.
Beautiful area. Good for you. Enjoy that time.
Inverted yield curve. In finance, an inverted yield curve is a yield curve in which short-term debt instruments have a greater yield than long-term bonds. An inverted yield curve is an unusual phenomenon. Bonds with shorter maturities generally provide lower yields than longer-term bonds. To determine whether the yield curve is inverted, it is a common practice to compare the yield curve on a 10-year U.S. Treasury bond to either a 2-year Treasury note or a 3-month Treasury bill.
All right. So let's translate that into English.
Please.
So if you're going to tie your money up for longer, you're going to demand a better return for that, right?
Correct.
So that would be a positive yield curve. So let's just throw some numbers at it because I think it's easier to envision. These are just numbers. They don't mean anything in the big scheme of things. So let's say a 10-year bond is going to pay 10% yield. Okay. And a 2-year bond is going to pay 2%. Usually you don't seem that far apart, but it's easy to remember here, right? So
give me the numbers again, Will. My brain's spaced out for just a second.
No worries. 10-year bond paying 10% interest rate.
Okay.
2-year bond paying 2% interest rate.
Gotcha.
And that is never that far apart, but that makes sense because I'm tying my money up for longer, so I want a better guaranteed return for that, right? So that would be, in that case, that'd be a positive 8% yield curve, or 8% yield curve. So an inverted yield curve is just the opposite, where that short-term bond actually pays a better yield than the longer-term bond. Okay. This typically happens going into a recession because what happens is people are scared, so they go to the guaranteed return, which is the U.S. Treasury, because we can always print the money. and it drives down the price of that bond, supply and demand. When bond prices go down, yields go up. They move inversely. And this is what happens. So it's a fear index.
Okay.
So an inverted yield curve, anytime you hear inverted yield curve, means the market is scared in the short term.
Okay.
They're running for safety. Okay. And when they run for safety, they're pulling money out of stocks, real estate, other things like that. Like right now, I would love to get in some real estate in certain parts of the country, but at best, I'm going to make 6.5%, maybe 7% of my money if I'm really find a really good deal. Well, I can go put in a U.S. Treasury bond for 2 years and make almost 5% for doing nothing. Why should I take that risk?
I wouldn't.
Right, exactly. So that's what happens when you get this inverted yield curve. Why go take the risk? Even within the stock market, over time, the stock market makes about 8% annually. Well, I can go get 60% of that just sitting in bonds and doing nothing with zero risk. So this is why when you see bond yields go up, the stock market goes down.
Okay.
Okay. So we have this inverted yield curve. This has been going on for a while. If you go to the next slide there, brother, this is the yield curve. This is the 10s, 2s. Okay. I don't care for the 10-year, 3-month. I think it's kind of a hocus pocus because it usually inverts later. Okay. Our green lines here, their vertical line is the 1st of July of 2022. That's where it went inverted. Your horizontal line is, I just missed it. It's basically your zero line where it goes inverted. So this has been inverted for a long time. And we're going to look at it historically here in a moment. So this, when it goes on like this, this is a recession predictor. And it's only been wrong once. And it was 1953 or 4, somewhere in there. And there was a very slight inversion of the yield curve, a very short period of time, and very slight inversion.
And this is not like 2 straight years, man. Right?
Yep. So this indicator gets the job done time after time. Now, what it doesn't tell you is the timing. There were people that as soon as inverted, they were like, "That's it, gonna have a recession." No, it didn't work out that way. Yeah. That's not how it works.
I think we kind of thought that, right?
Yeah, and at first we were like, well, this is an indicator of it, but it doesn't. It tells you a recession is coming. It doesn't tell you when. Okay, and a lot of this now plays into, let's just say there was an administration in Washington, D.C. that's printing insane amounts of money and sticking it in the economy.
Say it ain't so, Will.
I know. Okay, it's an out there scenario. Okay, but this is holding off the recession because the markets are scared.
Yeah,
this is what we're seeing with this chart. The markets have been scared since the summer of 2022, and so it's being held off. Some hocus pocus stuff. We've dug into those numbers with the GDP numbers and with the jobs numbers in the past. We've seen how they're playing with these numbers to keep us out of an official recession, but the bond market isn't falling for it. So the bond market is they eventually they're going to be right, because they control the money. Okay.
Yes, they do.
So now let's put this inverted yield curve into perspective here on the next slide.
Bang.
Boom. This is from Wall Street Silver. Great follow on Twitter or X or whatever they're calling it this week. The yield curve has been inverted for over 500 days. We've only seen this 3 times in history. And you may remember these times in general, Rich, from history books.
They tend to stick out, don't they?
They do, yeah. 2008, 1929, and 1974. And all 3 were a greater than 50% stock crash.
And they were unpleasant to live through.
Yes, they were. So this is what we're looking at. The inverted yield curve gets it right every time. But we don't know when. As we can see, other times it has been inverted for this long. The longer it inverts, the worse the recession ends up being. And typically when the inverted yield curve uninverts, when it goes positive again, is when the pain really happens, because the Federal Reserve cuts interest rates during an emergency.
I was going to say, you look at specifically the Great Depression. You're like, wow, it corrects itself and things must have been good, right? Nope.
So if we think about the Federal Reserve, if we think back to COVID, the GFC, right? The .com bubble popping, they cut interest rates. And if you think about it, if you cut the interest rates on the short term, which the Fed controls, that uninverts the yield curve. It goes positive.
But you know,
they
I'm
do
looking
that.
I'm looking at the .com bust though, Will, and it looks like a little blip. You know, it doesn't look as painful as it was for those of us in the market back then.
Yes, absolutely right. In fact, here's a little trivia question for you. .com bust. Cisco was kind of the Meta, Google, NVIDIA of its time. Couldn't go down. Stock couldn't go down. Cisco still has not gotten back to where it was before the .com crash.
Whoa, 20 something years later.
Yep.
Wow.
So everything else has. Cisco just ran way too far, way too fast. Kind of rhymes with NVIDIA if you think about it real hard.
Yeah.
So
before we get to the next slide, Will, remind everybody out there in Warrior Nation, why are two self-defense guys, shooters, jiu-jitsu guys talking about inverted yield curves and all this other stuff?
Great thing. We should do better. Bring that up earlier, shouldn't we? The reason is this is another way to protect and provide for your family. This knowledge, I'm all for, hey, let's go train, let's dry fire, let's get on there when Mike Seeklander's doing his stuff, and let's learn, let's get better with all these things. Let's become a coin member. Let's get in the training vault. Let's learn all this stuff. But that's great when somebody comes through the front door or something bad happens down at the gas station. However, this stuff we're talking about with the economy affects every part of our life, right? And it will affect unrest inside the country. When times get bad, crime goes up. So it all ties together.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I got a new LPVO recently, primary arms, loving that. I got a new 7.5-inch carbine. I'm going to set up some steel here on the farm somewhere if I can find a safe place to do it. A 25, 50, 100, 200, just so I can ring the steel, cold bore shots, and after my cup of coffee every morning.
There you go.
So, but we have to eat our veggies, and that's what looking into the micro and macroeconomic issues is all about, and that's what Will is the best at. So thank God we got him back, at least for one night. He'll be back soon, guys.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about, yield curves, guys.
Absolutely. And it's not always fun to talk about it. I'd way rather argue about 9 versus 45. No, that's a lie. I don't want to argue about that. It's stupid. Okay. But I'd way rather talk about, tactics, right? How do we protect our houses? And we should probably swing back around to some of those topics. We've talked about that in the past.
Will.
And, we need to dig back into that, how you set up your camera systems, how you set up, I use guard line sensors, how we set up all this stuff. But this is also how you protect your family, is this knowledge of what's going on out there in the world, because it might be your job at risk. It could be your investments at risk, because that's a threat to your family as well.
Well, how many more billion do we just vow to give the Ukraine? Was it 60 billion, 90 billion? But eventually you're talking about real money. And the more they print of this stuff, the more I see prices going up. I think I told you the other day, 3 burritos at my favorite place a week and a half ago was over $50 for 3 burritos.
Crazy.
It's insane, man.
It is. And I travel a lot, and the prices for everything are just through the roof. And, it's just, people are getting squeezed. We're seeing it with credit card delinquency rates. They're going up again. We're going to talk in a few slides here about some of the big banks starting to talk about this stuff. There's the stress is hitting, and it has been hitting, and people are getting squeezed, and they're going to get testy.
Yeah. Yeah. So, me and TC talked about that recently. It seems like everybody's spoiling for a fight, not just in this country, but it seems to be a somewhat of a global phenomenon. And I think you would have to look back to like 1914 to find a time where everybody just kind of like, hey, let's take a swing on somebody. And how'd that work out?
Yep. Well, and, for some countries, especially one that rhymes with China, they've got big internal problems with demographics, their economy, their real estate crash continues there. Those problems aren't going away. And the best way to distract a population is give them somebody else to be angry at.
Yes, it's so true. Dr. Gordon Botson is on. Thank you so much. Guys, liking and hit that share button. I'm reading a great book, and I did not want to like this book because I'm not necessarily a fan of the author. It's called Nuclear War by Annie Jacobson. It just came out maybe a month or so ago. She's running the podcast circuit and stuff like that. But it's up to date information. It's up to 2024 info, and she does a really good job. She's not only telling you everything you need to know about nuclear weapons around the world and where they are, what they can do, and the history, but she's also painting a scenario, very likely scenario as it seems, as to how we might get in one and how it would play out, and really digging that book. So again, these are just ways that we prepare.
Yep, absolutely. It's a big picture thing. It's easy to get caught up on guns and gear.
Yeah, true.
So for sure. So, all right. So from Yahoo Finance here, high interest rates are getting more challenging for even the biggest banks. So I'll hit the first part here, brother. JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, and Citigroup all said Friday their net interest income, which we'll dig into in a second, dropped from the fourth quarter of 23 into the first quarter of 2024. Down 4% at JP Morgan and Wells Fargo and 2% at Citigroup. So net interest income, as it goes on to say here, is the difference between what the banks earn on their assets and what they pay on deposits. So it's the difference between what they pay you for your savings account or checking account and what they loan it out at. So that tells you they're having to pay, it's a combination. They're having to pay more interest on those deposit accounts, and they're not able to charge as much interest and get loans originated. So they're getting squeezed too. I can't remember if it's in these slides. If it is, we'll skip over it when we get to it. But these banks are also, to bolster their earnings, they're decreasing their loan loss reserves. So loan loss reserves is the money they put aside to account for the loans that are going to go bad.
Well, it's funny because I'm cracking up. I just went to the bank. Like I said, I've been busy all day today. One of the last things I did was I ran into, not the bank, but the post office, and overnighted a $30,000 check to Wells Fargo to pay off a excavator we've got. So,
Yep.
So there you go. So go buy stock in Wells Fargo, because I just gave him 30 grand.
There you go. Yep. So yeah, and to Wells Fargo, they don't like that, right? Because now they're not making any interest on you.
Bingo.
Right. So when people pay off loans, they don't like that. They want to keep that cash flow machine running, because now if they can't originate another loan to someone else, now what? They're making.
I'm out of the system for them. Yeah,
exactly.
Done.
So the banks see this whole system completely differently than the consumers do. They want you borrowing money.
Yes.
So, all right. And this is just, I threw this in here just because I ran across it. What's this headline say here, Rich?
Here's why economists don't expect trillions of dollars in economic stimulus to create inflation. Not going to happen, guys.
What's the date on that?
That would be July, right before the inverted yield curve.
Yeah.
If memory serves me correctly.
Yeah, right in the middle of the pandemic. I mean, we were still shut down July of 2020, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. It was 2022 that the yield curve inverted. But no, this is absolute insanity. And I did an entire show on it. And I have to put that back out there because that was actually pretty good. But it's mathematical certainty. Me and you were laughing when they were saying transitory, right? I mean,
right.
You got to be kidding me.
Yep, for sure. And this is an example of be careful what you listen to on CNBC. I do watch them. I get news articles off them for my own use and for the show. But remember, CNBC is in the business of selling advertising. Mm-hmm. And their three biggest advertisers are Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street. They need money rolling into the market, which is why every time you turn CNBC on, now is always a great time to invest. Mm-hmm. When the market went down 30%, great time. Went up 20%, it's a great time. Doesn't matter, it's a great time. Mm-hmm. Okay, so keep that in mind, guys. So I ran across this. I thought it was a funny little throwback here, just to keep things in perspective.
Yeah, very good.
All right.
Oh my God, what is this thing?
This is gold, baby.
Oh, it is gold. Hey,
it is gold. Yeah. Yep. So
I could see it. There we go.
Had a nice move here since February 12th of this year, up 17.05%. Nice for your gold holdings, sir.
You only realize the gain if you cash out, which ain't gonna happen.
Yep. So I did, however, because I've got physical gold, and then I trade gold through the ETF GLD. So I'm all out of the trading gold right now. My physical stuff will hold until I'm gone. Hopefully, because that means I don't need it for something else, right?
Yeah.
But you'll see from the red circles here, all those red circles, the top one's MACD, RVI, RSI, which we should probably go back and review those at some point for everybody, Rich. And then the bottom one's a new one I've been following, the DMI. All those, I'll sum it up for you guys. All those say gold is very overbought right now. It's due for a pullback. And it is pulled back about 4% since I made this slide. So if you're holding gold.
To talk about why does precious metals go up? And I know there's a whole lot of reasons, but one of the reasons it goes up isn't it because the dollar's going down? Aren't they kind of inversely related?
In the big picture, long enough term, they are. Right now, the dollar is actually going up and gold's going up. Currently, they have a positive correlation,
which is weird.
Which is weird. But the reason gold is going up is because the reason the dollar is going up is because interest rates are going up, therefore making the dollar more valuable compared to other currencies.
That's what I'm saying.
Right. So really, what's happening is a flight to safety, and your safeties are your precious metals, mainly gold, somewhat silver, but silver is also a very industrial metal. So a lot of times in recession, silver doesn't do as well.
Yeah. Let's talk about that though, real quick, because, you always talk about money seeks a return, but now we're kind of in another paradigm where we're to seek to safety. The dollar is trying to seek safety.
Yep.
I'm just asking you to kind of riff on it for a second, I guess, Will. What are the things that's making people feel uncertain and they're seeking the safety?
Oh, awesome question. So there's a few things. First, people, when I say people, I mean regular people are feeling uncertain about the future. Their pay raises are not keeping up with inflation. And when the stock market starts getting volatile, even though it's going up, it's been quite volatile. That volatility scares people. Okay. So then they want something safe. They don't want to, when they open their return from their 401k at the end of each quarter, they don't want to do it like this and kind of hold the envelope funny and hope it's a good number. Right. So when they then run to the bonds, right, when they run to the bonds, that drives the bond price down. Well, that drives the yield up. Right. So that yield going up makes the dollar more valuable compared to other currencies. Where else do they run for safety? Gold.
Yeah, right? But I like the fact that the keying in on it's a relative value.
Absolutely,
it's relative to this, it's going up. Right. If you're just sitting here in the continent of the United States, you see the value of your dollar going down.
Bingo. But it's the currency markets trade globally, of course, right?
But to me, that's what I see here, though. I mean,
absolutely,
yeah.
Yep, that's what we're seeing here, and gold ran very fast, which normally doesn't happen. 17% in 2 months, 2.5 months. That's huge. I mean, look at this chart. It goes back to November of 22. You don't see another move like that up or down.
And and to your point too, it's like we're not seeing all precious metals going up. Rhodium is not platinum. Silver is kind of flat, if anything, going down. But gold is
uranium's not doing great. Gold's just taking off, and some of that becomes a self-licking ice cream cone with the computer trading algorithms because gold starts to take off, so they buy more. So then people see gold going up, so they buy more. That gives the algorithms to buy more, and it just keeps rotating. It'll rotate the other way too. I'm not saying gold's going to do that, but in other things, right? So this is the downside of these algorithms controlling the market.
Wow.
Other than that, it's a great day.
Speaking of controlling the market, Chinese government poses broad and unrelenting threat to the U.S. critical infrastructure, so saith the FBI director.
So I got this off FBI.gov, so nobody can claim we got it from rightwing.com here. So the PRC, People's Republic of China, has made it clear it considers every sector that makes our society run as fair game. And they were looking to land blows against civilian infrastructure to try and induce panic and break America's will to resist. Now, this goes back to, I know you've read this book, Unrestricted Warfare. Written by two PLA colonels back in, what was it, the 90s even? It's a very interesting book. I would suggest reading it in very short doses because it reads like a bad textbook as far as how interesting it is. The subject matter is very interesting. The way it's written is not entertaining. But they lay out everything they're doing, and they do consider everything to be fair game. So I see this as a continuing emerging threat for us.
100%. And every time, it's funny you say that, because like every time my phone will glitch or just do something weird, like turn itself off, or my laptop did this morning, I'm always like, is that it? Is it never going to come back on again? I mean,
Yep, for sure. I wake up in the morning and my cell phone still works for the alarm to go off. I'm like, well, I guess last night wasn't the night.
It could be coming though.
That's right. So, what's that top paragraph have to say?
But the CCP also wants to prevent the United States from being able to get in the way of a potential future. Quote, crosses between China and Taiwan by 2027, end quote. He said, Americans are starting to feel the effects of this sprint, he said, pointing to cyber intrusions and criminal activity as early deterrence efforts by the CCP. And of course, this is Director Ray talking, right?
Correct. Yes. No. So, we see we hear about the cyber stuff, right? Mm-hmm. But let's also talk about the criminal activity. There's a big, wide open area in the not north part of the United States of America.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of Chinese nationals coming across, and a lot of them seem to be military age males. Mm-hmm. So there's
probably nothing though. I mean, seriously.
Yeah, you're right. Let's just move on.
Yeah.
Did you see the latest episode of The Bachelor?
Oh my God.
Goodness. Can you believe that?
He's so
crazy.
handsome.
Yeah. So guys, this is welling up. We've seen it time and again with, thing after thing. We've all heard about the fentanyl precursors that are made in China and shipped to Mexico for the cartels to make fentanyl and get it across the border. That the Chinese see that as a viable method of warfare, and they see the grid obviously as a viable target. Also, other infrastructure, water is one that has been targeted numerous times, and also the pipelines. There have been numerous pipeline attacks. The most was the Colonial Pipeline is the one most everybody's heard of. That was a few years back. Those were all cyber attacks, and whoever did the Colonial one, if I remember correctly, they never did find out who did that one. So
it could be you or it could be me. I don't know who did it.
Hey, you didn't see me. You can't prove a thing. I'm pretty sure it was Dr. Fuller. Deny, make counter accusations.
Yeah, that's right.
So, and so you want to read this next one, brother? I think this one's pretty interesting.
The fact is, the PRC's targeting of our critical infrastructure is both broad and unrelenting, he said. And he added the immense size and expanding nature of the CCP's hacking program isn't just aimed at stealing American intellectual property. That's old school. That's so early 2000s.
No doubt.
It's using that mass, those numbers, to give itself the ability to physically wreak havoc on our critical infrastructure at a time of its choosing. And that is so, like MacArthur, I have returned, so saith Dr. Fuller.
Storming upon the beach. So what the part of this that stuck out at me, brother, was everybody seems to think a lot of these cyber attacks are about intellectual property, stealing how to make a better widget, right? And the Chinese do that, and they've done a lot of that in the past, but it's not truly their strategic goal in the big picture, right? And I think the last part of this, time of its choosing. Talk about some foreshadowing there, right?
Yeah, I mean, it just makes sense. If you're going to take Taiwan, and you can either turn everything off or threaten to turn it off. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. And I think it'll start with a either attack on the grid or also, just the banking system. Mm-hmm. Shut off the credit card processors for a couple of days. Oh, I go to so many places that they will not take cash, which for the record is not legal.
No.
But they're like, nope, not taking. We don't take cash. So, and in fairness, I put almost everything on the credit card to get the points anyway.
Of course.
But it's another way they're going to do that. And there's a lot of people who don't even carry cash. And if those credit card processors go down and those merchants aren't equipped to take cash, they can't make change, right? Then what?
Right.
Mm-hmm. So, Guile, thank you for the birthday wishes there, brother. Glad to see you're having fun in Japan.
Yeah, he's in Tokyo on vacation. That sounds like a good time.
For you, man. Enjoy.
No kidding. So CCP is, who knows? Let me read this last one here and see what's going on. When one victim company set up a honeypot, essentially a trap designed to look like a legitimate part of a computer network with decoy documents, it took the hackers all of 15 minutes to steal data related to the control and monitoring systems while ignoring financial and business related information. And that's a key indicator of what they're after.
Yep. Right. Yep. So they'll take the other low-hanging fruit when they can get it, of course. But I think their goals, their targets have changed now.
Yeah.
Right. So they're moving into a different phase here. Doesn't mean it's imminent, but I think we'll know when they're getting ready to take out Taiwan. They're going to really come after our systems.
Yeah. Targeted at 23 different pipeline operators.
Yep.
Wow.
And you only got to get through a couple, right?
Hey man, we got to be right every time. They got to be right once.
Exactly. And speaking of that, just here recently, I think 6 days ago now, 4 U.S. states hit by 911 call outages.
Probably nothing.
Just a quinky dink. And the cause of it has not yet been given, and I haven't heard anybody saying what it was. Here's a question I had, though, because I've got the non-emergency number programmed into my communicator device here as well, because then something comes up, you don't need 911, right?
Right.
And a question I need to ask my local PD is that non-emergency number also through whether it's a voice over internet protocol, or is it digitized in some way as well? I'm guessing it probably is. However, that would be a great resource to have to ask, is there a number that isn't part of the digital phone system? And have that in your phone.
Yeah, that's a great idea. That's a fantastic idea. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I wouldn't even know how to find out without going down there and asking somebody.
I'm going to have to go down and ask. I don't know how to find out either.
And then you might be on a list.
Yeah, I probably already am. Yeah. True. So if you're not on a list already, you're probably doing it wrong.
You're doing something wrong.
Yeah. So a little headline dump here. What's the first one there, brother?
Post-World War II order on brink of collapse. Amnesty head.
So Amnesty International said Wednesday the post-World War II order was on the brink of collapse, threatened by bitter conflict on multiple fronts to the rapid and unregulated rise of artificial intelligence. So what we need is more regulation. God. Although I'll tell you what, in the case of AI, I probably wouldn't argue with that one, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but I see this everywhere. My youngest son, he'll be 22 here in a couple of weeks, and he's saying, Dad, I think I might vote for RFK or whoever, whatever it was. I can't remember what he said. Maybe he wasn't saying it in context of who he was voting for, but he was saying that the government needs to do more about food. I'm like, what are you talking about? Well, I've gained all this weight, so the government needs to, they need to do something about this food that's poison. I'm like, what are you talking about? And this is my own son. I'm like, buddy, that's your personal responsibility. Let them make all the poison they want, stuff that's bad for you. And it's okay to have that once a month or a couple times a year. I said, you see me stuffing my face with donuts? It doesn't mean I don't love donuts. And if I have a donut once or twice a year with a cup of coffee with friends, it's no big deal. If I sit down and eat a 12-pack, it's a big deal. So I don't want the government regulating jack squat.
Yep.
Especially not junk food that I might enjoy every now and then.
Yeah. Well, and my I guess feelings on regulation of AI is more of what can they access? Because AI is basically just a huge database that gets searched really
Don't
fast.
get me wrong. I'm with you. And did you see Tucker Carlson on Joe Rogan? He's like, maybe we need to bomb the damn data centers.
I haven't watched that yet. I've got it downloaded, ready to listen to. So, and Dr. Fuller, Dr. Fuller brings up a salient point here. Leave the donuts alone. Yes. Yes. So fried dough is a good thing. Yeah. So what I see out of this is another indicator, like I said, people are feeling edgy, right? Yeah. And let's bear in mind the post-World War II order is Americans in charge. And Americans guaranteeing, freedom of trade around the country. And the U.S. dollar is the world reserve currency. So,
and all that's slipping, man. When nobody's picking up the phone, when Joe Biden calls them, that's a problem. You can't tell me the 45th Says, oh, you don't want to pick up the phone? No problem. New embargo on all your products.
Yep.
Take them off the shelves. Well, wait a minute. Let me pick up the
Oh,
phone.
yeah.
So, I mean, we are at a time of weakness when we need to be strong because everybody's looking for leadership right now and nobody's at the helm. Mm-hmm. And the whole Kennedy clan just came out and endorsed Biden. I don't know if you saw that.
I did see that.
Oh, it was nauseating. It's like, do you really think you want this guy in there until 2029? Let me say that again, 2029, and he's still the president. Are you kidding me? He can barely put two sentences together today.
Right. But it serves the machine, right?
Boy, it sure does.
And that's all the machine cares about is serving the machine. And there's a lot of people getting really rich off of that. So let's pop back to that previous one real quick there, brother. It goes back to our previous slides as well. FBI director issues chilling warning about possible terror attacks on U.S. soil. This is another one where, it's that asymmetry where, a few people who get through the border or get into the country in any other way with nefarious deeds in mind, they can have an outsized impact on an election. If something happens close to election, how people feel about things, how people react. And like I said, with things are on edge, we're seeing the protests, I say it in air quotes, pro-Palestinian protests around the country. Apparently it got pretty sporty down in Austin today. They sent riot police out there. We've seen what's happened with the Ivy League schools as well. And we've watched this play out before.
If we're lucky, this will be a repeat of the 60s, and then we'll go into the malaise of the 70s with stagflation and stuff like that, and we'll get out of something kinetic. My fear is we're heading into something kinetic.
I think we're headed to something kinetic.
I hope I'm wrong.
I hope you're wrong too, but let's, going back to our preparedness theme throughout all these shows is that, following these things helps you better prepare your family, whether it's food storage, being more self-reliant, a garden, all those things will help you be self-sufficient and not be relying on that same system.
Yeah. Amen. Totally agree with that. Yeah. So I would love to know. I mean, Director Ray keeps doing this, right? These unspecified threats. I'm like, what are you doing? Unless you give people some action steps like we tend to do, food, water, ammo, precious metals, we're trying to give people practical solutions at the end of almost every single show, whether it's, hardening your home, hardening your vehicle, hardening your financial. It's just like, dude, Director Ray, I hear you, brother. What do you want me to do about it? I haven't heard him say it.
And I'll say, you bring up a great point, but I don't think we will hear him say those things because their answer is always, give us more money, give us more power, let us do it, right?
Yeah. And I get it. At some levels, like you can't reveal sources and methods, and I understand national security. I got it, pal. But for mom and dad, soccer parents, what do you want them to do?
Yeah. I think what they want them to do is what we've been outlining. They just want more power. Right?
Yeah, I think you're right.
So when these things come up, like what was the recent one?
They just reapproved the FISA.
Yeah. But did you see who was exempt from it?
No.
Members of Congress.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. And who probably needs to be top of the list to be monitored?
Members of Congress.
Yeah.
Just saying.
The system begets the system, right?
Sickening.
It is.
So what is this, Mr. Will?
All right. So this is from Americans for Tax Reform. Not an unbiased thing, but I fact checked it, and it fact checks good. Biden calls for a 44.6% capital gains tax rate, the highest capital gains tax since its creation in 1922. So Alan Kelly's in the house. Good to see you, brother. Woo. All right. So capital gains, guys, that's when you buy a piece of property typically and then sell it. In the case of your primary home, I think you have 2 years to rebuy another primary home and you don't have to pay capital gains tax. Right. So if a person buys a rental property, a piece of commercial real estate, something like that, and you sell it, you pay capital gains tax. Also pay capital gains tax in taxable accounts for brokerages, so stocks and bonds. Also, cryptocurrencies are capital gains. If you hold it a short period, which is less than 2 years, you pay a higher rate than the long term, which is greater than 2 years to infinity. Now, right now, if it's a couple of things. So if it's short term under 2 years and your income's above a certain threshold, right now it's 40% capital gains. If you hold it longer than 2 years, it's 20% maximum. So what happens is with capital gains tax is a couple of things. First, in the case of property, you can do what's called a 1031 exchange. Are you familiar with that one, brother?
No, and this is not financial advice, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely not financial advice. So a 1031 exchange is, let's say you sell a piece of commercial real estate. Okay, you had a little building. Okay, you sell that. You can, when you get the proceeds from that sale, you can never take the proceeds. So they go into a separate account set up through the title company, and it's a 1031 account. Okay. And gosh, I'm going to goof the numbers up. I think you have 90 days to identify up to 5 other properties that you're looking to buy, and then 180 days total. So from closing, 180 days to close on that property. And if you meet those 2 check marks, that you then do not pay capital gains tax on that gain. Okay? It's a way around it, perfectly legal, it's done all the time. So that's a 1031 exchange. Very common thing to do in business. Now, the other thing that can happen is you die with a property and your heirs will get what's called step-up basis. So let's say Rich buys a piece of commercial real estate, say a multifamily complex for $10 million. Okay. During your holding of that and before you die, it goes to $20 million in value on the day you pass away. Your heirs would get that, but now their basis, in other words, their cost for it would be $20 million. They would not pay the capital gains on that. So now if it goes from, say, 20 million to 30 million, they would pay capital gains on that 10 million, but not on from the 10 to the 20. Does that make sense? Okay. So this is where you see generational wealth built, because these assets are just held through generations, right? The problem with raising capital gains tax is it incentivizes people to not let go of things. Okay, so it's a reverse motivation, because it's like, I'm going to lose, in this case, if this goes to 44.6%, and then we add on, in some states, the state capital gains tax. In California, you're going to pay 59% of your gain.
No wonder people are fleeing that place.
Exactly. And we can go down through the states here. The lowest one listed here is New York State at 53%. So you're going to give up over half of your gain if you get rid of this property and don't go either to a 1031 exchange, or if sadly a person passes away and gives it to their heirs. Well, this incentivizes people to either do 1031 exchanges, right? Or just hang on to the property, because you can always borrow against that value, which is a non-taxable event.
You know, right? that just, capital gains tax is one of those things that just absolutely sickens me. You know, you're disincentivizing success. It's like, and I've paid taxes on everything, and now you're going to hit me on.
I had to buy it with after-tax dollars, and now you're taxing me on the gains that I took the risk on.
Right. Jesus.
Right. And so this makes it harder for the younger generations to get into this loop of wealth creation. Correct. That's where the danger is. But it sells in a political context. It's easy to sell because those rich people, they aren't paying their fair share, right? Well, I paid for it with after-tax money, and then I took the risk.
Yes, right? Exactly.
And then the risk paid off, and now you're punishing me for doing all of that. And yes, it is a punishment when you take over half of my gain. That's a punishment, and I will stand on that soapbox all day long. So, yep.
Speaking of risk, you want to take on Dr. Fuller's remark there?
Oh, there's some multi-syllabic words in here. The Bureau, yes, thank you. I appreciate that. The Bureau says things so nebulously has little to do with protecting you as an individual. It has a lot to do with protecting the reputation of the organization so that when something does happen and Congress comes back at the organization, they can say, well, we knew it was coming, so we did our job. But the laws you wrote would not let us say anything more than we did say. Thus, the organization is protected from backlash. Simple.
I absolutely agree with what he's saying.
Yep.
And think about this. Like, if you would have gave me those additional things in the FISA that I wanted, I wanted warrantless searches and wiretapping and da-da-da. If I'd have had that, I could have kept those Americans alive. And at the expense of all your liberties.
Yep. So they're set up the long game, right? They learned their lesson after 9/11 because they didn't say anything ahead of time, right? So, and you also see this in the financial world as well, guys, because that's more my ballywick. You see it there too. These banks will come out with these reports, and it'll go out as a note to clients, and it'll be a little blurb on page 17 of the Wall Street Journal. An analyst at fill in the blank bank says there's a chance that these things could happen. Well, if that happens, that bank can come out and say, we knew that. Here's the report.
Yep.
Right?
We told you.
Yeah, we told you it's a possibility. So, but if you guys would have, given us more power over our clients' money, we could have stopped them from buying this or that or the other thing. Yep.
I love this last slide because it goes back to you're disincentivizing a good, solid work ethic that built America.
Yep.
You're disincentivizing me from wanting to be successful. Oh, it's better than to sit on my ass than to go out and take the risk, because if I do have that 20% of the time that I'm actually going to make money, you're going to tax that 20% of risk at the tune of 55%.
Yeah. Yep. And I couldn't agree more, brother. This is the work ethic is the only thing that is a choice.
Yeah.
I can't control that I'm not as smart as you. You can't control I have better hair.
Yeah,
right?
That's true. I can't.
But it goes back to, I forget, it was a female basketball coach. I forget, it was a slide a while back on the show, the closing slide. It says, I'm going to beat you because I'm going to outwork you. That's it. That's all there is to it. Period.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, it's funny. Me and Justin Carroll were texting this morning, and he was having a rough day at work. And he was saying, he's like, relative to all these other people, I'm starting to feel, exceptional. And I said, you're not exceptional, Professor. Neither am I. We are, however, disciplined. We see a problem and we fix it. We aggressively attack the hard thing now over the easy, comfortable ones later. And then, and he's like, yeah, you're right. People are like, oh, I wish I could shoot like you. And he's like, well, go train and do these things. And I'm like, you get what you prioritize.
Yep. One of the best lines I ever heard was from an old jiu-jitsu instructor. He said, jiu-jitsu is fair. You put in the work.
I've heard the mats never lie. It's the same kind of thing.
Yep. You put in the work, you get better. Don't put in the work, you don't get better. And that's shooting, knowledge in whatever subject you choose to pursue is all the same thing. But there's a class within the government and society that doesn't like that.
No, they want it's that wealth redistribution. They want to take from you and then piss it away. Here's what's sick is recently, it's not that they're pissing it away on a building a pipeline to nowhere, or some of the pork barrel projects we've seen here in America before. They're pissing it away by throwing it to another country. That's money laundering and driving around in Bugattis and stuff. It's like, what are we doing, man?
Yeah, it is. It's crazy. And it disincentivizes people in the middle class to strive to do better. Going back to Alan Kelly's comment here that I think you brought up there, and who gets hit the most on capital gains is the middle class. Amen. And it's mainly because of the education system, and frankly, because they don't educate themselves later on how to avoid paying those taxes. And you guys have heard my rant before. There's like 75 pages in the tax code that tell you what you need to pay. The rest of it is tell you how not to pay it. And let's think about tax code. A code solves a puzzle. The puzzle is how not to pay taxes.
Yeah.
Right? So it's also one of the best ones I ever heard on why Trump won was Dave Chappelle. Go look up Dave Chappelle, Trump win, something like that on YouTube. And he goes off and is like, he was, how would you call him? An honest liar.
Yes.
words, you know. And Hillary went off on how Trump was using the system to avoid paying taxes, and he said, "You bet I am." Same thing, same way your friends are doing it too. And Hillary didn't know what to do
because nobody ever said that before.
Exactly, nobody ever said the quiet part out loud.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah. Are you going to use that $90 million tax break? Of course I will. Of course I will. And so will she and all of her donors. Like
exactly. It's the best tax system money can buy. So, you know, and this is why the middle class gets hammered like these capital gains tax. So they'll say, you know, mom and dad, you know, maybe they buy a duplex they start off in, and then they buy a single family home and they keep the duplex for a while. Well, when they sell that, if they don't know about a 1031 exchange or understand these tax strategies, they just get shellacked and they go, well, why should I bother trying? I gave up almost half of it. Right?
Yeah, I tell you, a good accountant and a good attorney, that those are normally worth the money.
For sure, they are absolutely. So, and I would actually advocate for a tax attorney.
Yeah,
tax attorneys usually know more about the tax code than the guy auditing you does, and you have attorney-client privilege.
Yes, can't beat that. Yeah, and I will throw a final thing in there: a good handyman. See, I'm not like Will Wood. I'm not a DIY guy. I'm a hire it out. But yeah, great show today, brother.
Well, thank you. It's great to be back. I missed everybody.
Yeah, we miss you, man.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, so I will not be here the week of the 5th. Hopefully you can wrangle in Dr. Fuller to help you out there. He's been standing in for you, doing a fantastic job. So I tip my cap to you, Dr. Fuller.
Yep, and I've caught those shows. They've been awesome, and he's been looking very dapper on those shows as well.
Yeah.
So
he said maybe just marry an attorney like he did, and that would solve all the problem.
Oh, I'm not sure I can handle that kind of cross-examination on a daily basis.
Yeah. What's Alan Kelly say?
He says, just on the news, Biden's student loan payoff just paid one student's loan who was a professional student, high 6 figures. Yeah, where's my part of the payoff on those loans?
Man,
so it's whoever. So now this is kind of like the tax code, right? These people are learning how to work the system.
Amen.
Right?
Yeah.
You don't hate the player, hate the game.
Yeah, there was a couple. My brother told me recently. He says, "Hey, the Coast Guard's got some kind of new thing where if you're a Coast Guard retiree and you help shepherd someone into the Coast Guard, they'll give you $1,000." And I'm like, "Yeah." So that thing's been around forever, and they investigated this one couple because they made like $6 million off the Army. And they're like, you got to be doing something wrong. But they didn't. They just gamed the system. Instead of like one at a time in it, they created these websites. And I think they were like yourlocalrecruiter.com. And they looked official, but they didn't, the fine print at the bottom said non-official website. Click here if you want to join the Marines, the Army, the Navy. And then it would funnel you through, collect all your information, then hand that serialize the information and hand it off to that military branch. And if the kid enlisted, because they're tracking his social and everything, they got the money, and they made $6 million. So, kid, don't hate the player, hate the game.
Yeah, well, and good for them.
Exactly.
Why weren't those branches of service using those same methods? Right.
Exactly.
They needed people. They got people. It was the deal.
Thank God for people like them who wouldn't have a military.
Yep. So,
what's Gal say?
It says, are we going to change the title of the show when Rich goes on vacation? Maybe we'll just change it to I Wish Rich Was Here.
No, it's just American Warrior Show. Check out the new swag we got coming. Have you seen it?
Oh, look at there. Look at that. That looks awesome. I got to get me one of those.
Seeklander's working on the website, man. As soon as it's up, I'm going to tell you where to go if you want to buy. We got some really good stuff coming. The black hoodie classic and black t-shirts. That's all we're going to have.
Awesome. Keep it simple. Any color you want as long as it's black, right?
Amen. That's right.
There you go. All
Dr. Fuller says a retiree who funnels a person into the military, is that the Judas Goat retirement incentive? And if you don't know what a Judas Goat, I didn't know what it was until I read it in Dr. Fuller's amazing memoir, Painting Over Rust. The Judas Goat is someone that they employ at slaughterhouses, and he just leads the cows right into the chute to get slaughtered. And then when the next group comes in, he leads the next group and gets slaughtered. Yeah.
Yep. And that's the way of the world, right?
The way of the world. Will says, I'm ready for the new swag being checking every day to see if it's set up. Will, my friend, you might be one of the first ones to know about it, brother. I'll let you know as soon as
you got a guesstimate on timeline for that for everybody?
I would have to ask Mr. Seeklander. I've got some product in. I'm going to be shipping it. I'm going to be fulfilling it. It's not going to be a third party. The third party vendor that we had through Shopify, not your half of it. Will was the only half of our third party fulfillment that worked. We had another part that was an absolute abysmal failure. Now you put in an order and either Will or Rich fulfills it for you. Can't be simpler than that.
There you go.
Will, that's all I got, brother. Anytime you're ready.
That's all I got as well. I'll take us out if you don't mind, since I've missed it. I have. Yeah. Folks, the fight's coming. Be ready.